Okay, today I am going to speak of colonizers and decolonizers. Now, uh, Israel is labeled as a colony. Then who colonized it? Okay? Who is the colonizer? Then it is the United Nations who colonized it. So United Nations is both the colonizer and the decolonizer. So that is something I came across after about 20 years of thinking. Okay? So people in the South should not trust the United Nations because he is supposed to be helping colonization, but it is also colonizer. Right? And if you take, going on to a different subject, if you take the messenger RNA vaccine, now we have Professor Tissa Vitarna who advocated not to force this vaccine on people without studying for about 5 years. Then you have a professor in France who did research, who is a pioneer in messenger RNA vaccines. He also said you have to study this vaccine. From what I know, this RNA technology was used to treat cancer patients. So that's a pioneering technology. It could have negative effects. Now, cancer patient, it's okay. You can use it for cancer patients, and if something goes wrong, people are not going to sue you, or they will forgive that. But if you use it for a vaccine and if it backfires, then precautionary principle takes precedence. Right? So the fact that the precautionary principle is not taken into account, then there is something. So I think in the South you should always suspect the UN, because UN is not what it is supposed to be. It has two phases. It is both colonizer and also decolonizer. So how do you get rid of this? You have to reform the Security Council, but you can't do that. If you take Britain and France, it's better for them leave to Security Council, because they are just relics of the past. I think if they leave the Security Council, it is better for them, because it is embarrassing what they are doing. And the Russians and the Chinese, sometimes they oppose the Americans, but sometimes they don't. The reason why you don't is that because America has this reserve currency. That's the main reason why America dominates. So if you can't reform the Security Council, you have to reform economics. Then first thing you have to do is introduce ecological footprints and biocapacity to economic thinking. I don't think you can get agreement on that, but individual countries can go for that. Now, in United States, individually you have high ecological footprints, but because the United States has a very low population density, if you take the total ecological footprint in the country, it's not very high. So you have to pay attention to both these aspects. Okay? Individual ecological footprints and country-wise ecology. Now Sri Lanka, the Dutch introduced tobacco plantations and the British introduced coffee. So with that, our population density went up. So whatever the experts in economy say, I am saying the tea industry is, from a population density point of view, or the coffee industry, there is no tea industry, the coffee industry is non-sustainable. I mean, any economic professor can say otherwise. I would not accept that. Now, when it comes to population density, Asia has a problem. Asia has severe handicap there. So this has to be addressed. You can't avoid it. Okay. Then other thing is have this steady state economics. Now, first thing you have to do is you have to stabilize the population. Okay, in some countries population may even come down a little bit. Then there are many things you can do. You can have four-day working week. Then also you can have you have limit on the pay. You have the highest pay and the lowest pay. And there are certain things I propose which is not proposed in the steady state website. That is, you have to have some. You get rid of the fiat currency and you get rid of fractional banking, so that even fractional banking is steady state. Some steady staters talk about it. Okay. Then you can. There are certain restrictive limits to that. Then you have to restrict throughput and energy consumption. Once you go beyond a certain limit of consumption, then you have negative returns. So there are a lot of things you can do. So steady state economics, Americans will always reject it. But I think most countries should adopt it. Now if you take renewable energy, Donald Trump rejected it. But Chinese are going ahead in it, and they are creating more trade. So you don't have to have agreements on this. You can do it by yourself, and with other countries when they think you can have agreement then on certain things. So you can go ahead. You don't have to have full agreement on this, on the economic front. So if you go for a more steady state economics, then you will transform the Security Council, okay, and then also you have to get rid of the reserve currency. That is something I insist very much on that, because if you get rid of the reserve currency also, then you go for a multi-modal nodal system. I don't like to use the word multipolar, so I will like to use the word multinodal system. So you have to understand that United Nations is both the de-colonizer and also colonizer, and you have to emphasize on ecological footprints and biocapacity, and you have to go into this steady state economics. Now when you have 4-day working week, you spend more time with your family. So maybe you reduce psychological pressure. So you have certain aspects, and things like this, you have to separate the investment banking from commercial banking. That's kind of my proposal. Okay, so that was there. Then, so there are a lot of things you can also. It is not rigid when you take steady state economics. You can bring in new ideas and you can improve it. But the core principles are there: the stabilization of, and you can't trade on. Companies should not allow to be trade on their own stocks. That was there in United States. Those things are removed, and some of these are not discussed in steady state economics. But that means you can always contribute to steady state economics. Individual person can contribute it. Okay. Now you can't. I don't think you can reform the Security Council. But you have to do it the other way. If you go steady state, then you don't have this pressure to grow. That means your tendency to exploit is less. So in that respect also you can reduce corruption. Okay, so but my advice to South is don't trust the United Nations, because we know the history of the United Nations. And again, another thing I want to emphasize, that if you take human rights come from Protestant Chintana. It has a religious connotation. So I don't support the human rights, because it is used by the West to suppress the South. Human rights may be a good idea, but on a practical term, it's a very negative thing. So I think you have to reform the economics. You can't reform the political system. So that way you can go for a more multi-nodal system, and you have to have some constraints on the consumption level. Now there is another thing called tropic level, THROPIC, not TROPIC. That is depending on money levels. So in this tropic level, you have this predator. On the top, you have the predator. Like if you take the money, it's like a pyramid. You have grass, and you have deers and all that. And on the top, you get the lion. So I would like to use the word parasitic. Parasitic is not the correct word. It's a predator. So if you take the fire industry, finance, I almost forgot about this topic. It should have come earlier. Finance, insurance, real estate, they are at the top level. So they are at the predator level. Even academics can be predators, unless when they do their work, they have to contribute towards sustainability. So when you come to predator level, you get a lot of people. So if you call the academics a predator, they might not like it, but so this is the way it is labeled. So this is also very important, the money level in economics. If you take agriculture, then it's at the lower level. So they contributed to sustainability. If you have the excesses generated in agriculture. If you take the old economics, classical economics, you whatever get generated in the agriculture is used up. But if you can create money, then you can create anything. Right? If you print money, economics has no meaning to me. Okay, so I think I touched upon a lot of things on steady state economics. You have to reform and get rid of the reserve currency. Okay, so if you tie your money to gold and silver, then you can do a better job on sustainability, and also it will restrict America's domination in the world. Okay, without stopping, I don't think anybody should dominate, not the Russians, not the Chinese, not the Americans. Even if the Chinese dominate, I don't think it would be a good thing. So I touched upon, biocapacity, ecological footprint, steady state economics, and I touched upon certain aspects of steady state economics. I didn't touch everything, and you can create knowledge and you can add to it. Okay, so it's a little bit flexible, but there are main issues which you have to address. You have the level of money. You have this tropic level of money, not tropic, not depending on whether it is cold region or near the equator. It is that not that word. There's an extra H in there. So it is related to biology. Okay, THROPIC. Okay, I will stop here.